Good afternoon, and welcome to Experimenter and to Kolkata. It's the beginning of the 7th Curators Hub, and I'm extremely happy and privileged to welcome you all here back again. For most of you who've come here before, a very warm welcome back to Kolkata and to Experimenter, people who've been from the city. And to a lot of new faces that I see here, all my curator friends, my colleagues from different parts of the country and outside. A special welcome to you. I'm very happy to see all of you here. And to the people who've not come here before, for the people who've come here before, they know the kind of flow that things will get into and how the days will progress. But for the people who've not come here before, and as well for the people who've been here before, I would like to welcome you, give you a special welcome because this is your first time here. And I would like to speak about a few things that may not be on the papers that we've sent to you or on the emails that have been circulated by us. These are things that, these are aspects of our thoughts or our concerns that affects us collectively and together as the world of visual arts. And these are aspects that we would like to talk about that would probably set the tone for the next few days. The Experimenter Curators Hub, as you know, is a unique event. It's a unique conversation point in its scope, its scale, its intimateness, its possibilities. It was birthed from a desire to learn. It's created a kind of sort of a microcosm of a fertile bed of thoughts over the years. Our intention has always been to generate productive, intense, thought-provoking conversations, and that's what this is, next few days is going to be. However, none of these objectives of creating a thought-provoking setting would be possible if we would have not kept our minds open and receptive to a particular form of conversation and argumentation that is very much part of what our city, Kolkata, is. So there's a very particular reason we do this hub here in Kolkata, and also the same reason as to, many of you will know this, is why we want to have Experimenter here in Kolkata as opposed to the rest of the country. It is the spirit of argumentation and conversation that is very dear to us. Talking about argumentation, I would very briefly speak about a writer who we've always looked up to, both Priyanka and I, as gallerists as well as in just people living in contemporary society, and someone whose thoughts we've referred to when we want to think about what we're doing and with Experimenter and where we see ourselves. Amartya Sen. In his very famous book, The Argumentative Indian, he says that if you really want to understand the history, the ideology, the philosophy, even the politics of South Asia, you have to understand the importance that public debate and a multicultural and a multidimensional intellectualism has in this part of the world. And keeping those kinds of thoughts in mind, keeping those traditions of understanding other points of view and trying to understand what others are doing is what began 7 years ago with the Curators Hub. We wanted to know and learn about how curators think, how they make exhibitions, and what propels them to think of things this way. We've kept those aspects of our of the hub at the core, at the crux of where it belongs, and we're very happy that we've continued to do that, and that's something that we will continue to do over the years. This year too, we will debate and converse about exhibition making and curatorial practice. Hopefully, contrarian points of view will emerge, and these viewpoints will possibly help us to understand how our world can be viewed in different ways. Today's world is a highly political and fractured space, and every gesture we make and every decision we make has a political resonance inside these walls and outside. We will possibly discuss those choices and gestures. It's very much a conversational few days, and I would encourage you to keep your minds open and speak and converse as much as possible. On another very important note, in a year's time since we last met, Dramatic transformations and disturbing events, even regressive developments have kind of seeded our everyday. Voices are constantly being suppressed, not only at an individual level, but across the board and across the globe. And this is something that we need to speak and converse against, and we need to allow for dialogue to continue. The Experimental Curators Hub is, therefore, in our opinion, one of the small but very potent possibilities that allow for a multicultural, a multidimensional conversation that is possible to do. That is why it's called a hub and not a conference or a seminar. It's a very important part of the conversation. It's possible for us to think differently than the ways that we are being made to think these days, especially with what's happening around us. And I'm happy that we can even talk about things that are not necessarily restricted to just what we talk about here in the exhibitions. So the Curators Hub allows for discussion and encourages us to think and accept divergent points of view. It is really, again, a place for conversation, and I would urge you to engage in that. The energy that the hub draws from is created from you and your presence. It is going to be a few days full of learning and understanding these amazing minds who we are fortunate to have with us to present what they're doing. But it also will be exhausting. But the exhaustion will be a good one, hopefully, and you will learn to love it over time. Because this exhaustion is of good debates, and which can be the beginning of something new, and new possibilities can emerge. Thank you. On that note, I will hand over the mic to Priyanka, who has a few things to say.
Thank you, Prateek. And a German poet and playwright once said, "In the dark times, will there be singing?" Yes, there will be singing about the dark times. A very warm welcome to all of you here and to our presenting curators this year, Barbara, Lauren, Olivier, Pedro. Reem is not here already. She's on a flight. She had to reroute from Jordan and to Dubai. Ruba, to Natasha, and also through the web to Nada and Hamad, who could not make it here due to visa issues, but the webcast and Skype will enable them to participate nevertheless. It is really an honor and a privilege to have all of you with us this year. And a very warm welcome to all of you in the audience. I know that a lot of you have actually canceled meetings, made changes to your plans, traveled from different cities to be here. It really means a lot to us. Thank you so much. For some of you, I also know this is an annual ritual. So please continue doing that. That's wonderful. We're live on webcast. Welcome to the web-based audience. And apologies to the many who could not make it because we didn't have enough space. If we change the nature of this very intimate setting and we make it a larger event, I think we lose the intimacy and the democracy of being able to ask anything, express whatever you have, and just speak up whenever you feel like. So we plan to retain it to be like this, and join us, and the gaps that we have here, the web will hopefully bridge for us. So thank you. This is a very crucial year for Experimenter. Our very young team is already working on a range of developments and changes, and I have an announcement to make today. The end of this year, we will start our second place with a much more ambitious program in terms of space. It's a 5,000 square feet old 100-year-old house, which at the moment we only have an image of, but it could be that this is the last year that we have the hub here. Maybe we will move to our new location, we don't know. But it's an exciting time for us. We will run both programs simultaneously. We will start with a range of new shows, a media lab, of course our artist book wing, which is Experimenter Books, will continue. But most importantly, a renewed interest on our keenness to include learning as a key agenda in our program. Both spaces will run the programming that we currently do, but 100 days of the year will be dedicated to learning. So we will invite theorists, writers, artists, curators, historians, and people who inspire us to come and do short format courses, lectures, salon style conversations over days. Some of them could be 7 or 8 days, some of them will be 2 or 3, but this will happen through the year. And what we miss, Pratik and I miss often, to be able to go to an institution and be able to get, we will try in our very little way to have in the city. And I'm hoping even then many of you can come from wherever you are to attend whatever we are able to present. But of course, times are hard and we have to take baby steps forward, but nonetheless, I think we will keep moving. This and the Experimenter Curators Hub is only possible with the support of hundreds of people all over the world, with the support of the well-wishers that we have. We're able to do what we're doing today. And I have to thank a bunch of people, so please be patient, and I'd like to thank all of those without whom the Curators Hub this year would just not be possible. To start with, our deepest gratitude to our lead partner, JSW Foundation, Sangeeta Jindal and her dynamic team. This is a new partnership, and we are very much looking forward to the collaboration that will possibly unfold over multiple other projects. Very grateful for the JSW's generosity. Niyati and Abhay are here. Sangeeta couldn't make it, but thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Very grateful to our associate partners, Pro Helvetia and Australia Council for the Arts. Pro Helvetia and our partnership goes back a long way. We have worked together right from the first year of the hub, and I have often said this, that the Pro Helvetia team, it feels like an extension of our own team. I could call them, or any of us could call them at any point in time for any help we may need, and they have our back. So thank you for doing this for us and dozens of other organizations that I'm aware of. So thank you for enabling so much. Chandrika Grover, who heads Pro Helvetia in India, holds a special place in our heart, and it means especially a lot that she's here with us. These are the last few days of her current role as she moves on. And this is the last week, and it's such an honor that you are with us. Thank you so much. Tanima, if you're watching on the web, it feels very different without you here in the audience right now. Deepest thanks to Australia Council for the Arts. Special thanks to Amrit Gill and Hema Rans. Hema is here. Hema, your dedication inspires us, to all of us in the team. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure working with you through the year, and we really hope to take our relationship forward in many other ways. Heartfelt gratitude to Park Hotel. Thank you for taking care of our guests so warmly. To Take Magazine, our media partner. Sutton PR, a special shout out to Hania and Phoebe. I think they're watching as well. Without your relentless efforts, our communication wouldn't have been managed so smoothly. Shudeep of Mastishka, thank you for reaching this out to thousands of people in the world through the web. Vivian, thank you so much, and your whole team. To Sky, thank you for being able to, I don't know where you are, but thank you for giving us a better understanding as we come along the hub, and thank you for interviewing the presenting curators. And it's all up at the Experimenter blog. Should you be interested, please reach. He has had in-depth interviews with almost all of the participating curators. Very special thanks to our dear friend, ex-presenter and fifth-time moderator, Natasha Jinwala, whose spirit and mind we are greatly inspired by. Natasha and us are in dialogue through the year to make sure these 3 days are most enriching. For all those of you who are here, you see the conversations are well knit, the flow is effortless, and all with integrity. We have really deep respect for you, Natasha, and thanks so much for bringing this event to life in the way you do. I cannot finish my thank yous if I do not thank our star team at Experimenter. Thank you, Moho, Raman, Kriti, Shovik, Rishabh, our accounts and back office team. But I have to call out one person today. Like most other years, ECH would never be possible without our dear Mohor. Unbelievable skills of multitasking 100 different tasks. Make sure that we have no knowledge of what's going on really, and it's all done. all the way while she's attending 100 art fairs and art is opening worldwide. So thank you, Mohor. It's really amazing. Can we please have a round of applause for Mohor? Just a few quick house rules. Please keep your phones on silent, and please do not answer calls even if they're on vibration while the presentations are on. Photography is permitted, no flash, please. Please don't leave the room while the presentations are on. We will stick to time as much as possible, and we will have a few breaks. Please wait for those breaks to leave the room. All presentations are about 30 minutes in monologue and 30 minutes in dialogue. So you will have ample time to ask questions. And this dialogue is very, very much the core of the hub. So please fearlessly and wholeheartedly ask questions. And that would be really what we take out from the hub, this conversation. I'll hand over to Natasha after Prateek makes a short introduction to her. Though I know many of you already know her, but this is something we'd like to share.
Thank you, Priyanka. And welcome, Natasha. It's a pleasure to call you back here, to ask you to be here at the Hub, and I'm so happy to have you back. Most of you know Natasha's work, but I'll just read out a little bit. Natasha Jinwala is a curator, researcher, and writer. She's the curator of the Contour Biennale 8, which ended mid-year, sometime this year, which is and the curatorial advisor for Documenta 14, which is currently on view. And I personally feel that the kind of works that has been represented from this part of the world that Natasha has introduced in many ways to the curatorial team of Documenta has had a certain particular edge to the way the exhibition looks, and very, very grateful for so many voices to be heard. Thank you. Recent projects, other projects that have that include My East is Your West, featuring Shilpa Gupta and Rishi Drana at 56th Venice Biennale. Still Against the Sky at the KW Institute of Art in Berlin. Corruption, Everybody Knows, with Eflux in New York, within the framework of Super Community project, which she was also a member of the artistic team for the 8th Berlin Biennale for Contemporary Art with Juan Gaitan, and curated the music of rhythm at Taipei Biennale in 2012 with Anselm Franke. And at the Museum Stucki 2016-17 with Daniel Musicuk. In fact, Daniel was one of the presenting curators a few years ago, and I'm glad that happened. From 2013 to 15, she led the multi-part curatorial project Landings, presented at the Witte de With Center for the Contemporary Arts, David Roberts Art Foundation, Stedelijk Museum Amsterdam, and other partner organizations with Vivian Zirl. Jinwala writes on contemporary art and visual culture in various periodicals and has contributed to numerous publications. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for making it through the rain, and I even heard some storms outside. So thank you for combating the weather and your agendas and making time for us. Hopefully you will also join the entire set of days, because that truly makes us a sort of small temporary community, and so the discussion at the very conclusion is even richer when we have your views starting from day one. So as there have been extended introductions, I'm going to try to keep a bit short, but over the past 7 years, the Hub has truly functioned as a forum for practice and ideas around curating as expanded form. And I mean this term function with all its weight, as we seriously hope that there is an unpacking of the intuitive knowledges and research exercises that are carried forward in the pursuit of exhibition making, but also of collection building, publishing, and public outreach within the practices of our curators participating this year. In 2016 edition, and we see continuity, so I'd like to just share a little bit about the past editions. We've explored curatorial practices that reach into the realm of architecture, design, early and recent photography, as well as projects that follow a trans-historical approach bringing together works from collections of antiquity and an archaeological study contextualized with contemporary art. The role of the artist curator has remained central to past editions and also previously opened up investigations around the methodologies of, say, the artist-founded and curated Kochi Muziris Biennale, but also the multifold practice of Rux Media Collective and their playful as well as provocative modes of what they call kinetic contemplation. And last year, we had Dayanita Singh discuss her relationship to bookmaking, as she's recently said, the book as pocket museum, and the endeavor of museum making through the shaping of personal historiographies from behind the lens, as well as a commitment to reinventing the spatial dimension and support structures that mark the photograph as sight. Following from her presentation last year, Hans Ulrich Obrist and she seemed to share an interest in an obsession, nearly one could say, of house museums, those most intimate of spaces where exhibition making and stories of daily living coalesce. These are the museums that we often forget about, that are also very much prevalent in the Indian context, in the South Asian context. In a time when even Instagram feeds are zealously curated domains and tools of reaching virtual publics, we at ECH welcome those dynamic changes in curatorial methodology and digital culture, but also remain committed to examining durational approaches, considering, say, the long-term vision required in the setting up of museums, especially in South Asia and Southeast Asia, with some of our previous guests, enabling collection building practices that radically alter and challenge an existing institution's future role. Scrutinizing biennale models, that's something we've become good at. And inviting curators working with archival processes, popular aesthetics, and indigenous art forms whose own curatorial histories often remain in socially fragile and non-institutionalized contexts. In our current time, where mass displacements, forced migration, the rise of neoliberal right wing has become entrenched in several parts of the world, with contemporary culture as well as activism facing the perpetual threat of censorship, we are interested in the role of curating in asserting publicness and the task of curatorial responsibility to ask what it takes in negotiating space for collective debate, radical thinking, and the shaping of an aesthetics of solidarity. I'd like to briefly read from a passage, a poem by Cecilia Vicuña, who's a Chilean artist and poet, who I was very fortunate to get to know through her participation in Documenta 14. This is a poem called Language is Migrant, and it was included in South as a State of Mind, which is the Documenta 14 journal, initially founded by Marina Foukidis, and who's currently hosting Documenta. This was the third issue, special issue of the journal. Language is migrant. Words move from language to language, from culture to culture, from mouth to mouth. Our bodies are migrants. Cells and bacteria are migrants too. Even galaxies migrate. What is this talk then against migrants? It can only be talk against ourselves, against life itself. 20 years ago, I opened up the word migrant, seeing in it a dangerous mix of Latin American and Germanic roots. I imagined migrant was probably composed of my, Latin, for to change or move, and gra, heart, from the Germanic kerd. Thus, migrant became changed heart. A heart in pain, changing the heart of the earth. The word immigrant says, grant me life. Grant means to move, to allow, to have, and is related to an ancient Proto-Indo-European root, the mother of deed and law. So too, sacredos, performer of sacred rites. What is the rite performed by the millions of people displaced and seeking safe haven around the world? Letting us see our own indifference, our complicity in the ongoing wars. Is their pain powerful enough to allow us to change hearts, to see our part in it? I wonder, said Margarita, my immigrant friend, mixing up wondering and wounding, a perfect embodiment of our true condition. And I just want to end with an image. Again, apologies, but currently the last over 2 years have occupied me entirely with the effort of this project. So this is just something that I wanted to share with you. A closing image by the artist Banu Senetoglu, whose work is currently on view. Documenta 14's neoclassical facade of the Friedrichianum in Kassel, where 10 aluminium letters borrowed from the institution's signage, rest made in brass, reveal a caveat and plant a new thought mode within what rather stands as a stable museum structure. However, the Friedrichianum was not, in fact, just a stable structure. Like many of our museum institutions that do need reinvention, that do need challenging, and are today under all kinds of possible political threat. This was, in fact, where thousands of books were burned in 1933 under Nazi regime, and which also caught fire in Allied bombing raids in 1941. This very building, which now says, "Being safe is scary," based on a graffiti at the National Technical University of Athens, is much a reversible statement, but also possibly a question that appears to, that speaks to different corners of today's world, and a mode of address within this recurring international exhibition. Thank you.